Hey, good evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Space Oddities, episode number 4, where we go from inner space to outer space and everything in between. And specifically tonight, we're going to delve down a couple of rabbit holes that I honestly, when we kind of thought about what we were going to do tonight, I was like, we kind of wrapped around and I'm like, oh, that'll work. And then started to read up a little bit more. I knew a little bit about some of these stuff, but I kind of went a little deeper with it. And wow, there's so much crap. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the alleged government program, Immaculate Constellation. And of course, we're going to finish the hour out with a talk about either the secret weather programs and actual weather programs that the U.S. and abroad are using to manipulate weather. Hey, what's up, Bushibato?
Hey there.
Yeah, in our by the way, the only people we'll see over here, I believe, is the X people and the YouTube, but we will only be able to respond to the YouTube ones. But I do have Facebook up over here, so I can respond to that. I don't know if it's actually going yet or not, but no, of course not. Nothing ever runs right. It's just how it goes. There it goes. Yeah, gotta mute that. I'm wish that Elon would be a little bit more user friendly with StreamYard so that we can actually link the X recording before the show, rather than because we're not able to schedule ahead of time through StreamYard. Technically, you can do it ahead of time, but it'll be a whole separate broadcast and it won't work through StreamYard. So, all right. So I guess the first up to bat, I guess, is going to be the Immaculate Constellation. What's up?
Before that, you mentioned Elon Musk, and I just have to ask: did you see Starship number 5 fly?
Yes, and I saw it return back to Earth and achieve something NASA has failed to achieve for decades. Yes. I saw him flex over there, like, oh, what, NASA? What?
Yeah, that just was one of the most spectacular things I've seen. I was like standing there watching the live stream, like screaming, no way, like when the first stage relit and just kind of swung into the tower. Oh my, that's got to be one of the most incredible engineering achievements in the last 100 years. And they didn't even mention it from the White House.
Well, this administration's not a big fan of free speech and, well, anybody that actually is self-made or
Yep. Like
they're not a big fan of anything but socialism. So
yeah, and like Elon didn't even get invited to the auto manufacturers like when Biden took office. It was absurd. I mean, he's single-handedly revolutionized electric vehicles. They're like the most American-made cars. Raw materials come in one side of the factory, car comes out the other. It's sad that people can't see and appreciate progress no matter where it comes from.
you think the liberals would just be flocking to him since how much he's done for battery technology, for electric cars. I mean, he's probably done more for the environment than, well, any of them.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Just because you shit in a composting bucket doesn't mean you really help the environment that much. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I ain't taking away from living simply, because I'll be honest with you. We just had a hurricane here, and we had no power for 2 days, and a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And I'm like thinking to myself, no, don't be. That was the best 2 days of my life. That's like, I haven't had 2 days like that were that amazing in years. It was like no distractions. Me and the family, we would get up in the morning, we go outside, we'd I'd fire up I had a whole little setup outside. I had the grill on one side, I had my Coleman stove on the other, got coffee going, started up breakfast, kids playing outside, enjoying herself. Of course, you got to spray everybody down with almost a toxic amount of bug spray because we do live in Mosquito Alley, which is just like Tornado Alley, but with big
Hurricane.
clumps of mosquitoes.
Yeah, and hurricane.
Yeah. But yeah, we kind of we got out of it relatively unscathed ourselves. So we only had a couple of our fence pieces fall over. To be fair, it was already kind of falling apart. But I honestly didn't think it would fare as well as it did. But yeah, so of course now I completely lost my train of thought. So where were we going with all this?
I mean, a little bit about Elon, a little bit about the administration. Can take it wherever we want.
All right, roger that. I'm going to go ahead and post the X link if you prefer to watch it on X, and I don't blame you if you do. I'll probably get completely taken down for saying that, but I don't care. we're doing this for fun. So for fun, I'm going to give you the Twitter link for our broadcast. Feel free to join that broadcast. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here in a second so I can see we should be able to see you talking in chat over here, but I don't know. All right.
So while you're doing that, I just want to acknowledge the historic nature of today. The IDF settled the score with Yahya Sinwar. He's done. Most of his head is no longer part of his body. So a magnificent day for any people who love humanity and love freedom. He was a despotic terrorist, massacre, horrible, horrible person who Israel had treated his brain surgery, had given him a second chance at life. And it looks
now, this
like
is all prior to that terrorist attack. Yeah, prior to the terrorist attack, this gentleman was brought in by the Israeli government, fixed, treated well. Yeah, they pulled out a tumor out of his head, gave him a second lease on life, and he used that time to plan the horrible attack that started this whole thing.
Yep.
So if you didn't know who that guy is, that's who he is,
or he was.
Yeah, who he was. Yeah.
Him.
I wish I knew what the last thing that went through his head was. I mean, his mind. I mean,
I know it was a tank round, actually.
Oh, wow. You ain't coming back from that one.
No, there are lots of pictures. Probably don't want to look at him if you're squeamish, but yeah, he's gone. So hopefully that will create a situation where more rational people can take leadership roles and we can actually make peace, because that's what we want. We want peace.
Yeah. I think next week we're going to drop Facebook and put in Rumble. What do you think about that?
I'm not a fan of Facebook. Meta, or it just came out. There was, I think it was an O'Keefe video. It was either Project Veritas or another one of those like more conservative journalists. And they got a Meta engineer on camera talking about how they have a ranking system that is specifically designed to benefit the current administration, and it will it will boost or hide your posts depending on how favorable they are to the current administration. So not a fan. And I mean, about these social media, so Facebook has some of the most egregious, hate-filled, anti-Semitic content, and every time I've reported it, they've come back and said it doesn't violate our terms and services. Instagram, also Meta, same thing. Horrible terrorist, anti-Semitic content, and they don't remove it. Now, X, the one that the left is screaming about being unmoderated, is actually the only place when I report racist or anti-Semitic content that I've actually seen accounts being removed, posts being censored, things like that. So, the statements that X is not moderated, it's not controlled, but they do moderate, and they will take down things. And the community notes are wonderful to provide context. So all in all, so far I'm pretty impressed with X.
All right, so we got to take a little pause here because we now have a celebrity in the chat. Yes, no one other than PJ Hughes. He was involved in the Tic Tac event, and he was one of the four of us bottom siders that came out in support of Dave Fravor. He was one of the gentlemen that went to New Mexico or Nevada with us, and came out. Oh yes, you are absolutely a UFO celebrity. He's got a great story to tell about the Tic Tac encounter, and if you go to the Nimitz encounter on, or just type in Nimitz encounter on YouTube, and you go to that page, he actually has a full interview of his own, and also he is he's part of that film. So definitely should go check it out. I'm not sure what that is. Oh yeah, that's us. All right.
PJ, we haven't met, but thank you for your service.
PJ was in UAPX for quite a while before he kind of slowly faded into the background to spend tons of quality time with his boys and in the woods. And he is it still Cub Scouts, or are we gone up to Boy Scouts? If you want, you can come on with us. I'll shoot you a link. But it's okay if you just want to listen to. Yeah, you have an open invitation to this show anytime you want, PJ. And PJ also just finished up a fiction book. And matter of fact, I got my unsigned copy right here. Yeah, I'm all right, love. Dropping stuff. My wife got concerned. So it's called The Shattered Shield. It's a fiction, and I haven't read it yet, so I have no idea if it's great, but it's got to be good. Navy guy wrote it, but I'll read it when he signs it. That means you got to come down here on vacation. Your boys grew out of it. Yeah, they still like camping though. All right. Anyways, that's sidetracked again. All right. So we were talking about. Let's go back to Immaculate Constellation. All right. So now that we've talked about drilling holes through people's heads with tank rounds, and we've got our celebrity in the chat here. I will, PJ, and I plugged his book for him. But other than that, let's get to Immaculate Conception. Constellation.
I think everyone does that.
Yeah, I was like watching some of the clips and stuff of them talking about this, and I was like impressed by any of the journalists. It's like you could tell they were concentrating on only saying constellation. But so what it seems to be is yet another secret government program that's been collecting data and video and materials on UAP. But this is, I guess, supposed to be the program. Like, this is supposed to be the big dog program. And I don't know how much it's true or it's not. I don't know. What have you heard about it, Ben?
Yeah, so you touched on it. It's supposedly a SAP, Special Access Program, unacknowledged Special Access Program, and it is also supposedly the parent program for other SAPs that sit under the umbrella. So how compartmentalization works is you don't give the full story to every compartment. Each compartment has a limited scope, so they don't know really what the other compartments are working on. So this very well could be one of those situations where you have different SAPs that are like, I heard they have assets that are collecting at in space, in the atmosphere, at altitudes that aircraft fly at, and under the ocean. So each of the collection aspects could be dispersed to other compartments, so they don't even know what they're collecting. They don't know where they're passing it along, all to maintain that the secrecy around what they're actually doing. So I've got a few notes here that it well the we don't know who the whistleblower is yet, other than they have been to Congress and they have testified in multiple cases, or they've met with multiple Congress people. And the journalist, what's his name again?
Oh, so it was a journalist, and his name was, I put it in my notes also, and I read like about 1,000. Let's see.
Yeah, because we've got to give him.
Yeah, absolutely. Give him his
Absolute
kudos.
credit. Yeah, and Michael Schellenberger is
That's
his
correct.
name, and he published this on public.news. There's a paywall, but he's got a good preamble. So yes, he has the big news that I've seen is really just the name of the program, which is actually a big deal, because when you have these, any classified program has two names. It has its class name and its white name, what you can refer to it in non-classified settings. And what that serves to do is now you have a keyword that the NSA, who listens in on every single conversation on the phones, skims through every single email that's sent, every bit of conversations are continuously monitored under the Five Eyes information sharing, the partnerships. And if they see this word, these two words pop up together, Immaculate Constellation, alarms go off anywhere. And that's true for all of the classified program names, that it's basically a way of listening and saying, is someone said this word that doesn't that wouldn't normally be used, and in the context of another word that's not normally used. And with those two words together, we flag it, and then they'll investigate. So so just by knowing the name of it, it's going to cause a lot of issues. Consider if this actually is all above water. There is a program called Immaculate Constellation. So they have, it looked like it was kind of like a clearinghouse app where they would monitor different collection assets. You've got your satellites, you've got observation stations, you've got aircraft that have sensor systems, and all of those are feeding into either a database or into a dissemination engine that will point that data to different recipients. So different subscribers could be classified subscribers. So the collectors of the data don't even really know where it's going. It's just getting collected and then being forwarded. So it looks like this program was intended to collect data, to feed it to support crash recovery or and reverse engineering exploitation type efforts. Oh,
Yeah, and it wasn't reported who it was, and yeah, it might be Grush. It might be one of the people Grush mentioned. I really wouldn't have a clue. They at this point, it's just an official cool story, bro.
yeah,
We don't have any names. We don't even have the report that was mentioned that was being filed with Congress about this. So I look forward to, apparently it's supposed to be about a 25 page report. Um, very well written, and from what Mr. What was his name again?
Michael Schellenberger.
What Mr. Schellenberger was saying to Mr. Ross Coulthart, because one of the prominent uh, sources of the information on this was an interview from Ross. And go ahead and give Ross his kudos, and thank you for disseminating that information to us grunts. And but it said it's a 23-page, well documented, well written report about this whole thing, about all kinds of stuff, everything from crash retrievals. There's supposed to be like 12 ships, and 9 of them are in great condition or something of that nature. So it's exciting if it's true, just like with every piece of news from the UFO world that we get. But unfortunately, until the government decides that they actually want to, think that we're grown up enough to know what's actually going on in the world, we probably will never see see this at all. So
Yeah,
good luck. I have zero faith in the government. I don't know how to touch you, Ben, but that's
yeah, pretty much. I have faith in a lot of the people in government. The people that I've worked with in me from the industry side, but I've interfaced with folks from that side. For the most part, the people are patriots and we're really trying to do the right thing. The general bureaucracy and the system is soul crushing, and even people trying to do the right thing, it's often there's so much procedure. Lou's book is a great example of how all this stuff kind of works, that it makes actual progress very difficult to achieve. So I don't want to belittle all of the people who make up our government, because a lot of them are patriots.
yeah, Ben.
But I don't trust it.
It's a fine line. Even yeah, I bleed the American people, but the government's made me sick in the last like 8 years. I mean, ever since I really, since I got out of the military, I've never not been patriotic, and it's a hard road to run down to know when it's time to start talking about things that, frankly, you've been told not to. I thought I had something in my lip, but it was just a gray hair. Getting too old, but and even for us back in, I think it was like 2019 when we all came out about the Tic Tac encounter. I mean, I made like 30, 40 phone calls to old colleagues that I served with, to figure out whether or not I signed a non-disclosure agreement, because I mean, I did sign something. I couldn't remember what it was. Come to find out, it was just a chain of custody for the tapes that we sent out. But luckily I didn't actually have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. But then again, I had to make a whole nother set of phone calls to find out how much about my system I could talk about, how much about the radars I could talk about, because that's all key to the story. Well, how do you know the radar worked? I go, well, because it's $1 billion system that I went through a year, almost 2 years of training on, and I was an expert, so it's hard to explain to people why people wouldn't talk, because I mean, it was almost 20 years before any of us said anything, and it wasn't because we were trying to keep it some big bad secret. It's just because who the hell's going to believe you? I mean, really, other than a good drunken story, it really was, who the hell's going to believe you that you saw an object doing Mach 25? I mean, it's like, yeah,
Sure
there's
you
nothing.
did.
There's sure you did. Hey, here, have another beer. So I mean, I have, my heart goes out to the guys that do come out about this stuff, but in the same respect, I'm on the opposite side of the fence. Like, yeah, it's done. It's over with. Stick a fork in it. We need to go ahead and disclose anything to do with the UAPs. Period. If they're dead ancient aliens that we found in some husk of a shell of a craft, or some ancient technology that's been running on our planet on AI for millennia, that's just starting to crash all around us at this point. Their technology is starting to fail. We need to know what we're dealing with. Are we dealing with a higher intelligence that's actually running the world? Well, I'd really kind of like to know whether I'm an independent person or I'm a slave. Even though happy slave is a slave that doesn't know they're a slave, but although I want to know what kind of world I'm going to bring my daughter up in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit scary of this subject. So
Yeah. Now, supposedly, a lot is going to come out in the congressional hearing, which I don't think I have to say how pessimistic I am about that, considering how the congressional hearings have gone thus far. And
well, what
arrows.
we see and what happens in the closed door sessions are two different things. Because I mean, we see the dog and pony show for the public, and then they go into their secure skiffs, and then they get to hear the skinny on things, and then they get to decide whether or not they're going to release it. So we can only hope that they choose to go ahead and release more information than less,
Mhm.
because I think that if on the one side there is technologies that they are reverse engineering, they're literally holding the lifeblood of the world hostage just for you know some small edge against another
Mhm.
country. You know,
There, well, there's a few factors there. Like, first of all, everyone talks about like the energy sector. If these craft that conventional physics, Kevin had done the calculations of how much power one maneuver would require in conventional physics terms, and it's like orders of magnitude beyond like what a city is using for a week or something, just one 45-degree turn or something. Now, that's probably neglecting how the physics of how these things actually work. But if these things can do that kind of velocity, maybe achieving a percentage of C, you now have a weapon that could destroy the planet. So even at less than a tenth of the speed of light, any object hitting the planet is going to be, the energy release is going to be more than we can even comprehend. I
yeah,
think
it's a devastation level effect. I mean, it's literally a world killer.
world killer. Yeah, yeah. Like no more planet. If you have something that near relativistic velocity is the size of a car, I bet I would believe that something the size of a car would destroy an entire
If its
planet.
structural integrity could maintain through,
Well,
but
it
like,
would be the energy conversion. You would have an instantaneous mass to energy conversion because of the
yeah,
speed. So like you'd have the mass energy equivalent of a Volkswagen. Um, 1/2
like
MV.
basically like cracking us like an egg.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So horrifying things. So yes, there are some concerns around disclosing this beyond the economics of disrupting our energy infrastructure and our power balance. That's all based on finite resources and finite energy resources and control of those resources. So you upend the economic system, but then you also present a potential technology that could destroy the planet. And are we, I mean, we have enough nihilism on this planet right now, as is evidenced by the foolish college kids advocating for Hamas. You know, I would guarantee that if this technology was available, someone would use it to destroy the planet out of their nihilism.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
sad state
possibility.
of
I
life.
mean, if somebody can strap a bomb on and walk into a crowded facility in the name of a god, then they could do the same thing with this technology, except they get a bigger crowd. I want to go ahead and shout out to the disclosure team. I'm not sure which one of you it is, but the guest is actually my co-host Ben. He's actually an engineer that works with UAPX. It's Vinny. Oh, what's up, Vinny? I appreciate you showing up. We're beating a dead horse with this this, but we haven't been on in 3 weeks. Speaking of that, sorry we took so long to get our 4th episode out. So we had actually celebrated or the Jewish New Year. So we skipped one episode, and then I had a family emergency, so we had to skip this the next week, and then the hurricane hit. So I didn't have power. I probably could have done it on my cell phone, but I'll be honest with you, I was having fun not doing anything and enjoying life. So without the power, I just decided, yeah, no episode. So this is our first week with power after the hurricane, and back to the grind. But either way, thanks for showing up, Vinny. I appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Love goes back to you. Yeah, Vinny's got another podcast. And he does very well. He's I've been on his show. He's always been a real decent guy. Always helped me out in anything I needed online, at least. Always quick to repost for me. So, with that being said, yeah, so it's a lot of he said, she said stuff. We don't have any documentation yet. I haven't heard of any FOIA requests that have come back yet. I'm sure we'll get some revoked FOIA requests, since if this is a classified program, then they'll hide behind national security, I'm sure. Or if it's a program that's based out of a civilian company, they aren't required to tell us about it. Mm-hmm. So if it's a contractor program, so there's all kinds of loopholes that they can do to do these black projects. I have zero faith in the government, but I do have faith in people like Chris Mellon, working that angle, hopefully making the government own up to all this someday. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys like Chris working very hard towards that end. I think it's more practical to replicate the information that they have and then force them to say, hey, well, we know it's real. We've got it right here. So fess up. So waiting for
even
that
then they won't.
Golden glorious day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think they will? I mean, I think we can get to a point where we could say, here, UAP, we have this. We have this. It works. See, look what it does. And they'd say, no, you don't.
No, I'm pretty sure before that day happens, it's excuse me, Mr. Voorhees, we need to talk. Mm-hmm. And then it's just, I guess I'm closing up shop forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that, so getting back to on Immaculate Constellation, on what's it, the podcast with Corbell and
George
Knapp. Yeah. What's it? Weaponized. Yeah. Weaponized. Yep. They were saying that, and I believe Corbell was actually in Congress when this whistleblower was coming through, and they may have had a part in making those connections. I'm not exactly sure, but Corbell and Knapp were saying that their last episode of Weaponized is their insurance policy because they have more information. Knapp said he's read this whole 25-page paper, and they know more than they're admitting, but they have a dead man switch. If anything happens to them, they're guaranteeing that it'll be catastrophic disclosure with damage to national security. So they're hoping that they don't get knocked off. Of course, I'm hoping.
Question is how many of the people they're intertwined with that are literally just monitoring them. That's why I keep my group small. It's like if we've got a mole or somebody monitoring us in our group, they're pretty good. So if it's you, Ben, tell me.
Sorry.
Hey, thanks for popping in, bud. I appreciate it. My brother's trying to send me memes while I'm on here. But yeah, it's always good to see you, Vinny. Appreciate you popping in. And then what's up with the name? Usually they name these projects some type of ironic
Mm,
something to do with what they're doing. So you look at it, it's just like so they say constellation or immaculate constellation. So is it pure constellation? Is it a specific constellation that they're talking about, that maybe that where they know these things are coming from, or is it just like a constellation of people?
yeah. I
I'm
thought about
thinking, is it, because usually they're not directly what the words mean, but some type of play on the words.
that.
So
Yeah.
like these are the pure people that run everything.
Mhm.
That's what it kind of creeps me out. That's why the whole name kind of creeped me out.
For me, it made me think of a few things. The first thing I thought of when I heard it was the folks who are studying the old photographic plates from of the stars, star plates or pictures of the
Yeah,
sky.
that's actually I don't want to slaughter her
Beatrice.
name. Yeah, it's
Beatrice?
Beatrice. Yeah, that's her horror organization and her
Mhm.
program, and they're doing amazing things with going back and kind of looking at that. You know the things that people haven't looked at in decades.
Mhm.
And there's so much throwaway data that astronomers just kind of toss out because it's not anything to do with what they're trying to find. And just I wish it could be a fly on the wall for every UAP that's been tossed out because it ruined a plate for somebody.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, so that study is looking at these photographic plates from the night sky from before Sputnik, so before we launched any man-made satellites, and they've found some indications of because you can look at the star map, you can compare these old pictures to star maps, so then you can look and see in these star maps, are there any recurring objects? Now, recurring because that would indicate that they're orbital and not just a error in the slide, like just one blip, a dust spot or something.
So they
And they
might be able
do
to
have
prove the Black Knight satellite, or that we have satellites that were in orbit prior to us throwing stuff
exactly.
up there.
Yeah, so that made me think Immaculate Constellation. No one shot it up there with a rocket.
Or
It's
nobody at this
immaculate.
time frame. Who says
So
we were the first civilization on this planet?
speaking of that, there was on LinkedIn. There's a fellow. Anyone who's interested, I could point you to this guy. He big time space policy guy, and he made this comment on a LinkedIn post about geostationary geosync orbit, where he said, I just wish that we could disclose what's at Geo for the archaeology. So, I'm like, so I actually contacted him and I said, geology in the or archaeology in the geosynchronous region. So geosync region is like, I think it's like 26,000 miles away from Earth. That's where if this is the Earth turning, draw a line out, and the satellite is going to always be over the same position of the Earth. Because it's so far away, its orbital period is 24 hours. Low Earth orbit, you've got a 90-minute or so orbital period. So the ISS circles the Earth in 90 minutes. Satellites, Starlink, all those circle every 90 minutes. Geosync, geostationary stuff, it's like 24 hours. So it's way far away. So this guy was saying that there's archaeology to be done out at that orbit. So when I emailed him and I said, what are you talking about here? And he said, well, the old technologies that the Russians used and that we used. But I don't know if that's what he was really talking about.
Well, those would be very useful anyways, because imagine how much film may be still viable on some of those crafts if they have old school cameras systems that still have something on them. that'd be interesting to salvage.
It would, but I mean, you're
or even
talking
se- or even sensor data. I mean, honestly, just radiation data from then to now
shit.
would tell us a lot about
Yeah.
how, like, even the Van Allen belts changed, or how just radiation on this planet's changed since the nuclear age.
Yeah, there's some things you could glean from old tech, but I mean, I've worked with old space tech, literally like point to point wiring, core memory, where like every bit is a little ring of a ferrite ring that has two loops going in, one to write and one to erase, like, or read. So really old tech, that got us into space, but things have gotten so much simpler now. It's like our first orbital reconnaissance bird called Hexagon. This is a cool thing to get into. I worked at the company that we built Hexagon well before my time. Hexagon is actually the classified name, and if you look at it, we were talking about how the classified naming happens. So if you look at this satellite called Hexagon, you'll see that it has a hexagonal profile. You know nothing about it from the name Hexagon, but Hexagon was the class name for that project. And what it used was it actually used film, and it had the most complex electromechanical system to tension the film properly, to actually move and rotate the film to compensate for motion blur as the Earth is rotating beneath the satellite that's orbiting. So they accomplished all these things using mechanical systems.
Yeah, you would be amazed. I'm an old school FC where, I was probably one of the last that went through that still learned about synchro servo computers.
Mhm.
I luckily, being born in the 80s, it means I grew up through the entire process of them. And when I went through FCA school, we got taught everything from synchro servo to semiconductors. So, because there was still stuff in the fleet that was still running off synchro servo, fire control systems,
Mhm.
like the 16-inch guns. I think they've been converted at this point, but at that point, they were still running off synchro servo computers. So it's amazing what they were able to do with them.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's almost like now technology is so easy with digital with
Now it's just, how am I going to configure this caught off the shelf thing to do what I want?
mm,
So
yeah.
it's easy and it's hard at the same time, because it's, to compile a good package to do what you want when you want it requires skilled software engineers, hardware engineers, and the proper equipment combined in the proper way. So that's where the challenge is at this point. All right, so I think we've pretty much beat the dead horse with Immaculate Constellation, because honestly, there really isn't a whole lot on it until we get more information. But I definitely thought it was worth talking about, because a new name to throw into the hat, you know. Um, so I think we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. And plus, we're getting 44 minutes into the hour. We might go a little long tonight, but it's going smooth. I like it. It's going well, at least from what it feels like, and I'm enjoying the conversation. And feel free to post comments or questions in the chats. I've got all the chats up, so I'll be able to see if anybody wants to talk about it. But yeah, don't be shy. All right, so the next topic we wanted to talk about is weather manipulation. What is it? How's it happening? And is there any truth to the secret weather programs that people seem to think exist? Um, so there's a lot of, like everything with conspiracy theories and the online communities. There's a ton of things that get blown out of proportion, at least from my perspective. So I did a pretty deep dive on a lot of these different things, and I knew a little bit about a lot of it already, but I kind of skimmed through a lot of the facts and stuff like that. And it's like, so the primary way that they do any type of weather manipulation at this point seems to be starting off with cloud seeding. and that's where they use some type of small mist or of things like silver iodide or potassium iodide or even dry ice, and they use that to make the nucleus of rain. So moisture will collect around it, and then that way eventually it'll hopefully rain. So that's what they're talking about by seeding, is they're putting these they're misting this stuff into clouds, hoping to let them develop more raindrops, or snow, or like in the, I forgot what years it was. Let me see. I think I might have wrote it down. But there was an operation. Oh, so the big conspiracy theory right now with these two big hurricanes that just came through. Ironically, I literally rode through one, uh, true Florida man style, and so these were odd storms. They're massive. One went straight up through the Panhandle up into the Blue Ridge Mountains and just destroyed the Blue Ridge Mountains. And then the other one came straight across Florida, but they also developed in the Caribbean, which is normally storm systems will come from Africa, develop across the Pacific, across the Atlantic, and either go down into the Caribbean and curl up and then come and hit us. But they generally don't just develop in the Caribbean and then come up and wreak havoc. And so I'm sure it's happened tons and tons of times, but it hasn't happened that way since I've lived here. So there's a lot of speculation about them being man-made storms. I really don't believe that they could have been man-made storms. You live in Connecticut because you're stuck there, and it's a little bit cheaper than Massachusetts.
I don't think it's any cheaper than.
Well, yeah, Connecticut's pretty expensive too.
Yeah, it's
pretty much the tri-state area is pretty damn expensive. But then again, it is the best part of the country, so
it's beautiful. There's other parts of the country that are wonderful as well.
You don't know what I would give just to be up there during the fall right now, dude. We got some 30-degree weather this morning. I think it was 37 degrees where I was at this morning. Of course, it was like 80 by the afternoon. But but I walked out this morning and I'm like, oh yes, it was so nice. But yeah, because fall is my favorite time of year, and we actually are having a mini fall here right now because we have a cold front coming through. So it's been amazing the last couple of days. Yeah, Massachusetts. I grew up. I was born in Massachusetts and grew up in Massachusetts. And I remember going to get my first car, and I bought the thing for like $200. It was a piece of crap, and my dad's like, "Well, I hope you got $1,000." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean I need $1,000?" Oh yeah, to get tax, title, and you have to make sure you have to go get your you got to get it checked. You got to get a little sticker that says that it's not a piece of crap, and that or you have to go get emissions checked. So you can't have emissions above a certain thing, then they charge you an arm and a leg for all of it. So after you buy a car, if you don't have another $1,000, you ain't getting it on the road. Yeah, that was devastating to me. And then part-time job, not full-time in school and playing football, and it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. It took me months to come up with the money to get to do all that. Anyways, we'll get back to it. Yeah, so these two hurricanes, they it's been speculated that they're man-made. I don't really believe so. The only thing, I mean, and we're gonna go realistically and just if there's some government project, I have no idea about it. Could not find even a hint of it. There's more evidence of dead alien bodies than there is of these programs. But
probably for good reason.
I did find a program for manipulating hurricanes. Did you interested at all? You want to know about it?
I mean, I found one report about them in the 50s dumping something into a hurricane, and then it turned. And then
All
they
right.
said, "Oh my
So
God."
there was a Project Storm Fury
Okay.
between 1962 and 1983. And basically what they did is they were seeding the clouds in a hurricane to try to lower the wind velocity, to try to basically they were trying to disarm hurricanes. They were trying to make them more manageable. They didn't know what it was going to end up, but they initially had some positive results of about between 10 and 15% of the wind was diminished. A decrease in wind velocity, and but they could never get consistent
Mhm.
uh,
Correlation, not
correlations.
necessary causing.
So in 1983, they finally just shit canned the whole thing. So it was a little anticlimactic, but I thought, I found something for hurricane manipulation. And then I heard a quote from a scientist that I won't name the scientist. Of course, cool story, bro, right? Yeah, that basically said if you got enough lasers in orbit, you can do anything to the weather. And I was like, knowing the person, like, that fucking scares me. that just scares me. you know and then I did find a weather satellite patent, and it basically seeds weather from orbit. And I read through the patent, and I don't know, let me see if I still have it.
So was the concept like cloud seeding from orbit, or?
Yeah, it was something similar to that. Let me see if I still have it up. I think it was on Tor that I found it. Yeah, it was a weather modification satellite. Weather modification by artificial satellite. And basically, let's see. It was uses Earth's satellites to harness solar energy to modify the thermodynamics and composition of the Earth's atmosphere. So basically, what it wanted to do is use solar energy, thermal energy, to change the temperature within the atmosphere to adjust storms and make weather. So, I mean, honestly, it's highly plausible from what I read on the because I don't think the actual the it was a U.S. patent 5984239A, and it was super interesting. But it was the closest thing I could find to like true weather manipulation,
Mhm.
like what people are wanting to know about. But I mean, let me see if they have a date on this patent. I didn't even look to see what it is. So this patent was uh 1995 and reintroduced in 1998, and it expired in 2011. So it's now there's no whole bars. Anybody can use this, the idea from this patent now. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's been a couple of years since it was first so let's see, what was it, 1995. uh I hate to say it, but that was actually kind of a long time ago. That hurts my heart.
Yeah, same, same.
Yes, I'm getting old apparently. But it's uh it's amazing to think that they were already patenting ideas on how to do this, and they already had a working diagram of how it would be built, which means that they at least most likely built at least one of these things.
I
Mm.
I would I
It's a
would
government
question if they built.
it's a government patent.
Uh-huh. So often look at the Salvatore Pais government patents. Like, something doesn't need to work to patent it. You kind of need to spell it out, but you can patent something that objectively doesn't work. And
So what you're trying to tell me is they might have patented a red herring?
Who knows? I mean, sometimes you patent things just if you so like at my last job, we had an award for for whenever you would submit a patent. So we would submit for patents just stupid little ideas. Like I came up with an algorithm um, for a non-deterministic system where when you run a stepper motor beyond its hard point, how do you know what phase it last stepped on? And I came up with an algorithm that actually worked for it. So they wanted me to patent that. So we tried patenting that. It got rejected either internally or I don't think it made it to the patent office.
I got
But like you
yeah,
throw it
no,
at the
I
wall, see what sticks, and then you can collect royalties.
well
Maybe.
see, like, so I was a part of the process for the development of the PlayStation 3. I worked at Sony San Diego at the time, and every little thing that they designed for that system that's unique,
Mhm.
they throw a patent in for.
Oh yeah.
There was a bolt I was a part of a patent with, and it was just a bolt. And just because the angle of the thread was unique, they patented it.
Yeah.
So here's your normal threads, right? So these were just tilted.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. It was just an aggressively tilted thread, and you probably see them all over the place now. But if you ever see those longer bolts with these just long threads going around, yeah, they patented that.
Mhm.
It was chassis bolts. But it just goes to show you, even every little thing that they design for any type of small system, and all these companies that are designing stuff for everything, they patent everything to try to so that if there is any rip-offs, or if there's anybody trying to use their design, they can say, well, they violated 37 patents by doing this, so they owe us this much more money because they violated us this many times. So it's not just one thing of violating a patent copyright on the PlayStation. It's the PlayStation, all of the subcategories of all the things they patented and got away with patenting inside the PlayStation. So that's why those lawsuits get so big. Anyways, sidetracked. I think I lost you, Ben. Yeah, I think we lost him. Great still shot, though. I mean, look at that. Just noble face. All right. While we wait for Ben to come back, we'll go ahead and talk about some of the other ways that they are using to manipulate weather right now. And so, yeah, it looks like I lost him completely. If he pops back in, I'll go ahead and bring him on. But so I just highlighted cloud seeding, and then they also have something called ionosphere. Sorry. Oh, I think I am gone too. Yep, yep, I think I got canned too. Hello, hello, hello. All right, I guess you guys can still hear me, so I'm going to end the stream right now because something's going odd with StreamYard. see if I can get a video back. Give it a second.
All right. It looks like I got booted and I'm back on using a hotspot on my phone. So I don't know how much is coming through. And it looks like Gary got booted as well. So if anyone, oh, it looks like we have 5 people and we had like 90 before. Okay, now it's back to 91 people. So if anyone can hear me, could you just drop a note in the chat?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay, they can hear me. Are you on, Gary?
I'm trying to get back on.
Okay. Well, I have Gary on the phone. He's trying to get back on. So give us a minute and hopefully we can get this resolved.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. StreamYard just shit the bed somehow. It
This
had
is
to.
actually, well, the Wi-Fi here
Oh,
where I'm at went down at the same moment. And so I'm and it hasn't come back. So I'm actually tethered using my phone's hotspot. So
you might want to get rid of the video because it's degrading your quality, anyways.
okay.
Yeah, just turn off your if you go into there we go. Yeah, he'll come back. Yeah, no idea. Both of us, our Wi-Fi's both took a dive at the same time, which is super odd because we don't live in the same place at all. Like I live in Florida and he lives in, I believe, New York, right, Ben?
Connecticut, right over the New York
Yeah,
line.
so he lives over there by PJ, and yeah, that's crazy. I what so what's the probability of that happening? Both of our Wi-Fi is going out at the same time.
Um, I mean near zero unless there was a common cause, like either StreamYard, a StreamYard crash. We've also been having a lot of solar activity. So I actually saw my first aurora borealis here in Connecticut, like a real beautiful purples and reds and all those things. So there could have been some more solar activity which could have affected something, but that sounds, and no one else got affected because when I came back on
I think we were getting too close, Ben. I think they're on to us.
oh, there you go, that's what it is. That's what it is.
You got
So
anytime you have a technical glitch like that, you got to say that. It's just it's policy.
yep. All right, well we'll go with that. So you want to continue on the weather modification conversation?
Yeah, no, I think we're at an hour. I think we could probably continue the weather modification on the next episode, or not. I don't know. I think I already kind of talked about the cool stuff about it. So, and
Yeah,
since since everything's kind of gone to hell now, anyways, I'll
well,
go ahead. And we'll say good night. So, Ben, you got any final thoughts for this evening?
well, just around the weather thing, I have to express my skepticism that anyone would have the desire and capability and will to see through using a hurricane to accomplish what you could accomplish much more simple ways. So I've got to keep my tinfoil hat on this one and say that but I think they're just hurricanes, and Florida is a magnet for hurricanes. Maybe you are, Gary, but
And maybe
I don't think there's anything nefarious. But of course, cloud seeding is real. That's an interesting thing to research, but I don't think there's really a conspiracy here.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of different ways that they can manipulate the weather. I haven't even like 8 other ways that they're researching right now. But it's an interesting topic. Maybe we'll revisit it at some point, especially if it's more prevalent in the news, like the hurricanes. But my final thoughts on the weather thing is that I would say there's a 5% chance that they continue to develop the technology that I was talking about earlier to make it to the point where they could either use lasers to, manipulate cloud systems, or by superheating them, or using the solar energy, like in that patent that I had referred to. Either way, I think there's still either a skeptical chance. I give it a 5% chance of it actually being a thing. So I'll give it a hearty 1 finger up out of 10.
That's safe.
Yeah, it may be safe, but I think that's really the reality of the situation when it comes to weather manipulation, and I really hope that I'm right on that one. But and as for our other topic, Immaculate Constellation, I honestly, I don't really feel like there's a doubt in my mind that that's actually a real program. Its extent and what it actually is about, that's going to be debated, but I believe it is a real program. What about you?
I agree. I mean, for this to be such a big story, and really all we know about it is the program name and the fact that Schellenberger went to the DoD before he published and said, "I'm going to publish this," and they said, "Wait." And he waited, and they said, "Wait some more and wait some more," and they weren't getting back to him, so they weren't denying it. And so that means that I think I agree. I think the program is real. What it is, the extent of it, absolutely no idea. Time will hopefully tell.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I really hope that, it's not the type of time that, like, we find out about, all the details of the atom bomb, 70 years later. I hope we don't end up with that kind of time frame. But with that being said, that's our final opinions on the topics that we were discussed tonight. And I would ask everybody to go check out the Disclosure Team's premiere. They had a great interview with Sarah Gam, which is a ex-Arrow employee, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I know she's an ex-UAP something from the government. So it should be a really good interview, and I'm probably going to go check that out right after this anyway. So to each is their own. Have a good night, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Gary.
Good night, brother.